for every individual in South Africa, there has to be just a careful and a very complex navigation. Has it always been like this? And when did you come into consciousness that the society that we live in now is violent, and as a person you need to protect yourself and to protect those around you?
I think it's always been this way, and I think when I look back, I mean, hindsight, what do they say, is always 2020. Like, you can look back, and I feel that there comes a point when you're a young woman where the men around you see you as a young little girl who's growing, who they can pick up and hug and play, and there's nothing creepy about it. But then you start growing up and you develop, and puberty happens, and you can almost sense in the air of your community that I'm no longer looked at as a little girl by these men. I'm no longer looked at as the little girl, I'm looked at as a potential something, even though these little boobs aren't really boobs, and I'm also trying to navigate myself through this body. So an experience where, and I don't want to talk about the old days because I wasn't there, but I imagine an experience where a community celebrated a milestone of entering into puberty now becomes a, how do I hide? So I hide underneath clothes, I hide underneath, how I speak with the boys. I try and make myself one of the boys, and people will go, oh, I must say tomboy. In hindsight, I realized that no, it was a protection mechanism. I just didn't have the language at the time to be able to say, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe developing and growing as a woman in this community. So to answer your question, it's always been unsafe. This is not a new thing. It's just that now people are learning to speak. We have a language. I mean, the idea of gender non-conforming people or trans people has always existed in our communities. We just didn't have the vocab. Now we have the vocab. Now we have a word that we can say, oh, this word means this. When you say you're transgender, this is what it means. But throughout the history as Africans, that's has always existed. Within a particular, spiritual beliefs, you speak about people who aren't necessarily what they present as in their human form. So umongile could be ugogo is what I'm meaning, or umasasa could be umkhulu. So the point that I'm making is that that language, those people have always existed, we just didn't have the language. Similarly, violence has always been violence in our communities, we just didn't have the language or the words to be able to say that's not okay. And now that we've got Time's Up, and now that we've got That's Not Okay, we're learning a new vocab, and I can understand the resistance. I really can, because this is language that we're not used to. We're not used to women saying no. I remember and I was told if you pull away, it's an encouragement. You're encouraging him to keep trying. Yeah. And it's like, now that I look back, I'm like, yo, what a messed up way to be socialized and introduced to relationshiping, that I have to, my no is negotiable. So we start there as young girls. We're not told to have hard boundaries. We're told that, your no just means that you just need to be coaxed out of being shy. So to answer the question in a very long-winded way, the society has always been violent as far as I can remember. It's just that now we have words and terms and languages to be able to express this violence. But our mothers went through this, our mothers' mothers. I mean, when I bring it into my context as an actress, Onomhlenkonyeni went through sexual harassment that I'm going through as an actress. Sure. That Masimbulele Buso, who 10 years ago, she probably went through the same. So Lillian Dube went through. These are people that aren't necessarily actresses within my generation, but I bet you each and every one of them has a Me Too story that then they didn't have the opportunity to be able to speak. Now there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there are platforms for you to be able to go, that's not okay. But it didn't mean that then it was okay. It wasn't okay. There just wasn't a language. I don't know if I'm making sense. You are, Masasa, and to be quite honest, we gave birth to a rapist a long time ago. Esikolweni, there used to be guys oyazi indobana
uphuma kwesikolo kuzakwenza into ethile. We know as guys. Long time siyayazi nobana okay kuyiwe endaweni ethile kucinywa isibane and then men will take turns kulo mntana lo. And ibe fani loo nto leyo. So long time esikolweni we didn't have the mindset wana uzawuphuma up uye high school. We didn't have the mindset yokuthi ndenze ntoni kulaa mntana esikolweni 10 years back. But when I reflect now back, ndithi hayi man, we were messed up as boys. But where is that person? Where is the victim today? Where are you today? You know? And there are guys who you see today, uthi hey lo mntu elifini yakhe uphumelele, and you look at the girls abamoshwe city. And you look at that and you feel sorry because we don't know the pain esiyikhozileyo. We don't know the wound esayishiyayo kulaa mntu. And thina siyaqhubeka ebomini bethu. And number two, we have a problem of undressing women even today. Behamba bengena ezindaweni, you undress that person, you discuss that person with amanye amadoda. We ask each other, you know how old is this young girl, you know? Once she's over 18, you're like, aye, sharp. Say mdala. We drive cars. We see women going around as when the first instinct yakho kanike nimlandele nobuyaphi lo mntana. You know, I'm talking about today. That there are older men abakulandelayo right, you know, educated men avula ifestire uyaphi, you know, dukhwelise. That for me already,
it's violent.
It's, you know what I mean? You don't know as a woman uzawuthini. Mna, I'm feeling so comfortable to say khwele emotweni man. You know, I want to talk to you. So this culture for me, culture esinika the younger generation ko.
Which is why it's important now with conversations like this that we pass on a new language and a new culture. Because the thing is, culture is not fixed. We have the opportunity to change it. We have the opportunity to adjust it according to the times. And the times say that it's not okay to do that. It's not okay to undress women. It's okay to teach young men how to be gentle and kind and sensitive and express their emotions and feelings and not think that that's a wimp or you know, whatever derogatory term that we associate with.
What do you think it's a problem? For me, I was saying to myself today, I'm not going to justify a rapist. I'm not going to justify gender-based violence because zininzi izinto esigobe through zona as human beings. So I'm not going to justify. So my question is, what do you think it's a problem? I'm just asking whoever namasas because as a man, I'm a perpetrator. You know, and I don't know for where na xa ndikubamba isandla ungafuni ufila njani. I don't know xa ndifike setini ndikuphuza ngendlela ongafuniyo, you know.
There's nothing wrong with asking.
There's
nothing wrong in those instances. This is where another word that's a big buzzword in our community as actors, as entertainers, is consent. There's nothing wrong. So there was an incident, and I hope you don't mind me sharing it.
No, absolutely.
But Wangile and I work intimately together in a particular story for a particular show. And it was the first time in my career, when Amasi, that a fellow male actor pulled me aside after rehearsal, even before rehearsal, and said to me, "What are your boundaries?" My head was shocked. My head went, wait, what do you mean, what are my boundaries? Oh, you mean that even on the set, this body has autonomy? I can tell you where you can and cannot go. In 10 years of acting, no one has ever done that. What are your boundaries? Are you okay here? And indicating on his own body. So the point that I'm trying to make is that there's nothing wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with getting consent. Ask. Ask what people's pronouns are. Ask, because that's the language, the world we're in now. You can't just assume that, and it happens a lot in acting spaces. I mean, I had an incident once where we're in a rehearsal room for a show, and this director was saying to this actor, okay, and then you touch her boobs. And I remember laughing, thinking he's joking, because I'm like, of course you're going to ask me first about whether my boobs can be touched or not.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and this is an older gentleman in the industry, and he looked at me very perplexed, like I was talking gibberish.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, he's going to touch your boobs. I'm like, why? No, it's to signify lovemaking. I'm like, well, is there no other way to signify lovemaking that doesn't
Without
involve
touching, yeah.
touching my boobs? And what I was grateful for and fortunate to have was a fellow actor again who could read the room and who could read that this actress is uncomfortable. Now I had my privilege because I'm an actor who's acted for a number of years. But what happens to young actresses who are told, don't complain, do whatever they say. If someone touches you in the wrong way, just suck it up because that's the part of working. You don't want to be labeled as difficult. You don't want to be labeled a diva. At what cost does that come at? And I can tell you, as an actor, reflecting on my experiences then, it comes at the loss of your confidence, of your self-worth, of wanting to be able to decide what, who, when, why. This is my instrument. It's not our instrument.
Sure.
It's not your Lego that you can come and take and pick. And it's about an industry and about a people and about a community. Again, learning the language, learning consent, learning what you did and gifted me with as an actor, to be able to say, what are your boundaries?
Yeah.
Because that question led me to also going, what are my boundaries as an actor? This unmitigated access to my body, maybe not. Oh wow, I can actually say, no, I don't want to kiss you, Bongile. Okay, sharp. Then how do we tell the story? Because the scene requires this level of intimacy. How do we tell it in a way that is convincing, but is also safe for you? And Bongile, what I respect and honor you about that is that, I know if I'd said no, that's not, he wouldn't have taken personal offense.
Yeah.
Men take offense to the word no.
Yeah. Sure.
Like the word no is like a deep, and it makes me wonder, is it in your formative years that you were taught no, and it means something else, and so it triggers something? I don't know, but to answer your question, there's nothing absolutely wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with getting consent. We're all learning a new language, and let's be kind and patient with one another, but also let's understand that someone's no is non-negotiable. And this is the language that I'm hoping fathers of young men now are going to teach their sons, because the world has changed. You can't do that thing of Izaman Masambe because your ass will get locked up in jail.